The purpose of our renovation has always been to lighten up the house and to open it up to the views of the river. And it had us thinking, who lived in such a dark house and why were there so many dark rooms? Well, it was this room back here that was the biggest clue. This is the darkest room in the house. And it's also a place where the previous homeowner spent a lot of time. His name was Jules Aarons, and he lived in the house for almost 45 years. Now, a physicist by trade, he was also a professional photographer. And it was right here in this sink where so many of his images were seen for the first time, because this was his dark room. Now, those images, well, many of them were stunning, and we are not the only ones who think so. One of the country's foremost libraries has been collecting those images for years.
He very solidly, for most of his career as a photographer, worked in the genre of street photography, where you went out into urban areas with a camera and you captured human life as it's lived in the streets.
But he was a physicist by trade, so is he an amateur photographer, or is he this a vaulted photographer as you see him?
Well, he's an amateur in the fact that he didn't do it professionally, but his skill level was not amateur. He was a professional and fine art photographer in every way, and that included the composition, printing, every aspect of producing a great photograph.
All right, well, let's talk about this genre of street photography. A quintessential Jules Aarons photo right there?
I would say so, yeah. That's one he was very proud of. There's a lot of drama going on here. It's almost like watching a film in still. You see that some of the men are sort of talking to each other and chatting, but some are looking at the photographer almost in their moment of discovery of the fact that they're being watched. And he's caught this perfect moment between these two dynamics, and then he juxtaposes it beautifully with this shot of a corner, a typical urban street corner in the North End neighborhood. You know, it's a mission-type based photography. First of all, starts with a love of humanity and a love of urban spaces. He approached everything with great seriousness. He spent a lot of time doing it, and it's really the printing that puts him over the edge that makes him a fine artist. More work goes into the darkroom side of the photograph than in the exposure side.
So here even I start to see it. I mean, her face is so set off because it's a stark black background.
Exactly. It's just she's kind of looming out of this dark background, and she almost is incandescent, her face. She's given this kind of drama and almost angelic light to highlight her face in this photograph.
And then the printing, which you say is the most important, was done in the basement of our house.
That's right, in that humble little space. In the hands of a master like Jules Aarons, darkrooms are magical.
Who are these people? I mean, what was his fascination with just, I guess, regular folks, but they're all sort of city dwellers?
Yeah, that's what you're interested in street photography. It's a very humanistic genre of photography. There's almost a political side to it where you're trying to show that these people are important, they're real people. Just because they live in a city and they're working class doesn't mean that their life doesn't have value and that it can't be a subject of great art.
I think one of the most fundamental things about him was his deep love of humanity. And every photograph he took, every relationship he had, really was a way in which he wanted to emphasize, preserve, and embrace the way people were able to present themselves to the world in a positive and dignified way. I think you see that he was fascinated by the way in which people presented themselves out of their homes, into the street, in a way that was dramatic and I think joyous in many cases, and that's the way his love of people showed itself in all of these photos.
So he wasn't on the street corner with these folks sharing a laugh or telling stories with them?
Not at all. He was in fact kind of reserved himself. He would get up super early. He was a very early riser, 5:30, and he would literally go out with his Rolleiflex kept at his side, and he would watch people and watch what they did in the street and watch how they related to one another. And he would take a photograph at the right moment, very quietly, and then take that image home with him and explode it in the darkroom, which was part of what I got to see most of. So this was really a magical place for me when I was growing up in the house, down here in the darkroom, in the basement. I got to work side by side with my dad. I got to watch him develop photographs. It started with the enlarger. It ended here in this incredible sink. You'd see the final image of those great photographs come to life out of blank paper. It was really remarkable.
So this room represents weekends with your dad.
Exactly. I love being in the darkroom. I love working side by side with him. He was so passionate about the work that he did that for me it was just a great education and a great way to spend time with my dad.
Well, you've had a chance to sort of look at some of the things that we're doing to your father's house. I'm curious, do you have any thoughts of what he might think of the house or think of these renovations that we're doing?
Yeah, I think he would really appreciate what's been going on. I think the fact that it's been opened up, the fact that you can see the river so much more. I think he would love the fact that there's a new family moving in with kids that could grow up the way we did. We had so much fun here. And he was a guy who loved transformation. So to have something that he was passionate about be transformed into something that works for someone else, I think he would be really, really proud of that.